an emergency happens on Saturday, I'll have something I can say.
Loving is on that list for me.
Okay.
Big time. I was surprised it's not on there.
I think loving for me as well. And then driven.
If anybody, if I remembered by anything, I want it to be for my loving. I do.
That's cool. No, you are.
I want to
I
leave
like
that
that.
impression.
I want to be remembered for being silly.
You are.
I am silly. I want people to be like, she's so funny and quirky and weird.
It's all good. Courtney, go for it.
Good morning, Spiritual Life Center. Welcome to the SLC Sunday Experience. We are in week 4 of our Faith in Action book study series, The Power of Ritual. Many of you are wearing the green.
Yeah.
So we want you to know your soul is welcome here, and we're going to sing about that.
That's right. You're in the right place at the right time. Just where you are meant to be. Let's take a look.
I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm meant to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting a message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here.
Each time you turn around and say good morning to those live streaming, you are in the right place at the right time.
I'm in the right place at the right time. I'm just where I'm meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm meant to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. 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 Yeah. My soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Yeah. My soul is welcome. I am getting a message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here.
All souls are welcome here. Good morning, Reverend Deb.
Good morning, Reverend James. And we greet you this morning in the name of all that is good, all that is holy, and all that is sacred, and in the warm and loving energy of this mission-centric ministry, Spiritual Life Center. If this is your very first time with us today, here in the sanctuary or love streaming from afar, we especially want to welcome you because we know that you are not here by accident. We are all here by divine appointment. And we're just so happy to have you with us today. We are also happy that you bring your cell phones and other ringy-dingy things. However, please silence them during the service.
Now that we've silenced the ringy-dingies, we have a clear connection to the source of all. We may call the Atman presence of Christ within, where we make it the activity of our awareness. And from this consciousness that we send loving and soothing energy to those souls who died yesterday in the shooting in the synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, knowing that they're on the other side of the veil now. We also send this loving energy in particular to those that they have left behind, their friends, their fellow congregants, their co-workers, and all of us, recognizing that we are one in the Spirit. And whatever happens to one of us happens to all of us indirectly. In the same consciousness, we send this loving light and energy to Julie Lightsmith, a longtime member of Spiritual Life Center, who's gone on to her next assignment. And we're grateful for the opportunity to have had her cross our path if we had that chance. And we go forth now doing our part to uplift our world. Because we are the way the Spirit of God gets around in this dimension. And so we bring the light, the love, the joy, the wisdom, in the words that we speak, the thoughts that we hold, the actions that we take, so that we can say unabashedly that when you see me, you see the presence that sent me. For this presence and I and all of us are one. So it is, and so we let it be. Amen. And we have 11 roses here that represent the 11 people that made their transition yesterday at the synagogue in Pittsburgh. So we hold them in the light as we go forward. And now we have an announcement from
Me.
you.
Hello, everybody. I want to tell you about a very special ceremony ritual as we celebrate, or we have our message today. Our week in this Faith in Action is the power of ritual. And it just so happens that we have October 31st falling on Wednesday, and it happens to be the actual eve of our 20th anniversary. Our first service was November 1st, 1998 at the Radisson Hotel. So we are planning a very special ancestral ceremony that will be inspired by the Dia de Muertos, the Day of the Dead. So we're going to create an altar with representations of the ancestors of the Unity New Thought movement, and we're going to honor and receive personal messages from our ancestors in the New Thought movement, and have very special music, and it will be a ceremony. And so we would love for all of you to come. It will be a really wonderful experience, and you will go away with a personal message from one of the ancestors and a crystal ball to do your meditations, to see into the future. So our intention, calling it the Bridge of Light, is that we bridge all the way from our ancestors all the way through to the founding ministers of Spiritual Life Center, the current leadership, and visioning into the future leadership of Spiritual Life Center. That is the intention, and we would love for all of you to be here. As usual, there are going to be delicious 3 different types of homemade soups at 6 o'clock, and the ceremony will happen at 7 o'clock. This will be facilitated by Reverend Christine Boughton, Reverend Louise, and myself, with some wonderful musicians, Anne, my sister Catherine, Michael and Lisa Lawson, and you all. We're going to get into some deep chanting, and it's going to be a beautiful ceremony, so we hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
So Saturday, November 3rd, the Women of Spirit are hosting Greg Valm, and he is going to be talking about the Zoroastrian wisdom tradition. And it is from Saturday, November 3rd, from 8:30 a.m. till noon. And then, this is a little bit out of order, but date-wise, but Gratitude Sunday is coming up. It's on November 18th, and that's the day that we celebrate the season of gratitude in the community with pie.
Gonna have some pie.
So bring your favorite pre-sliced pie, and we will have pie after each service. And James, I think you said this morning that right now, this very moment, it's apple, or did it change?
But I told her to bring on lots of varieties because it could change by next.
Okay, I didn't know if it had changed in
Gratitude
between
Sunday.
services or not. So.
And just to remind you that next week is daylight savings time, so you want to fall back, right? Fall back an hour. So that means that you gain an extra hour. Now, of course, as always, every year there's someone that comes early, and that's okay. Just come. We'll put you to work. We'll have something that you can do before the service. No questions about that. And also, we have our Light the World Gala that's going to be on Friday, November the 16th at the Unitarian Universalist Event Center on Sierra Boulevard. And
We have a top 10 list for ways to make the Light of the World Gala amazing.
so we're going to start out with number 10, purchase your tickets. Number 9, invite friends and reserve a table. Number 8, attire is semi-formal. Light up the gala with a festive outfit. Number 7, volunteer. Volunteer appreciation tickets are available at a reduced price as needed. Number 6, live auction items like timeshares, adventures, dinners, experiences, and jewelry, and all that good stuff will be available.
Number 5, arrive early. The doors open at 5:30 and the reception starts at 6. Number 4, enjoy each other, live music, and a fabulous dinner. Number 3, bid generously on live auction items and take it to the limit one more time. Number 2, make a commitment to your personal transformation and celebrate you. And number 1, light the world with your presence, because SLC is not the same without you.
Thank you. All right. And we're gathering testimonials for people who have transformative experiences as a result of coming to Spiritual Life Center. So if you have a special testimony you'd like to share that with us, you can see Elaine or Cameron or Heather as they're producing a video to capture how Spiritual Life Center has been transforming lives all of these years. You getting our attention for something? Oh, okay. When we finish. All righty. This is new. All right. We want to acknowledge some special people here today. Our board members and ambassadors and prayer chaplains. We're asking those who are present to stand. The board members who are wearing the purple ribbons with their name tags, and the ambassadors with the rainbow ribbons are here to really greet you and answer questions that you may have about Spiritual Life Center, and they'll be more than happy to entertain you in that regard. And our prayer chaplains are doing the very important work in consciousness by holding confidential prayer during our journeys of joy, as well as the journeys of challenges that we may be going through or growing through. And of course, they're wearing the white stoles. They're available to pray with you at the end of the service here in the sanctuary or in the courtyard. So we thank them for their presence and all that they do for our community.
And if you're here for the very first time, in a moment we're going to ask you to raise your hand. But right now we want you to know about opportunities that we have for you to get connected here. If you fill out the welcome card that you will be handed and drop it in the offering basket or take it directly out to the welcome table out in the courtyard, there is a special warm welcome for you and a gift. So raise your hand if you're here for the very first time.
Any first timers here today, just keep your hand up nice and high, and we have something special for you. We're going to give you a chalet. And on the chalet, there's a tag. And the tag says, "We believe that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and there are many paths to the one God." And so we thank you for coming here and sharing your consciousness, your love, and your pathway here at Spiritual Life Center. And know that you have friends all around you. And before we stand and greet each other, it's this time for you to come forward to share. Monty is one of our members of our board of trustees, so when he speaks, we listen.
The rest of my family is a member of Congregation B'nai Israel. Well, I guess I am too, technically. But anyway, I was at a service there this morning, and there is going to be, for those of you interested in expressing solidarity with the Jewish community, there will be a service there tomorrow which is open to the general public. That's at Congregation B'nai Israel on Riverside Drive at 7 o'clock.
7 p.m.
7 p.m.
All right.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Monte, and I'm sure that...
I don't know what time it ends.
Okay. Thank you, Monte. We can... It's an opportunity for us to connect with those who are really our brothers and sisters on so many levels. We are one family on this planet, and we want to be able to support everyone to fulfill their highest and best. And when we do that for anyone, we do it for ourselves. And with that, I invite you to greet one another, our newcomers, our first-timers. Say, you are marvelous and glad you are here.
And we invite you to stay standing as now we get into our group song, our Faith in Action song, Creating the Dream.
Out of the cave and into the light, the serpent of illusion takes a feathered flight. The eagle of truth, revealing who you are, the artist and the art, a star among stars. Stand in your power. Now is the only hour. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh, hey ya, hey ya, oh, hey ya, 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 oh, hey ya, hey ya, oh. Deep in the silence, where the sounds heard, universal wisdom flowing through the word, creating the dream that lives in me and you, in harmony with all. To your heart be true. Now is the only hour. Hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, hey ya, oh, hey ya, hey ya, oh,
Well, as you know, that was an original song by Paula for our Faith in Action program every week. And we have some additional artists who are going to do their representation of the themes of each week. This week we have two wonderful in-house artists, Amanda Baker and Beverly Aiken, and they're going to present their work as to the theme of our Faith in Action for this week and for our theme overall. And I'm going to start with Amanda Baker, to my immediate right. And this is what she writes about her piece. I was called Bird in my household growing up because of how I flitted about, seemingly not thinking about where I was going or why. I now see strength in the bird's freedom to lift off and land effortlessly throughout its life, not wondering how things may work out. It allows space for immediate inspired action. The Quetzal bird drawn here represents that I am bird and is also the national bird of Guatemala, a country I called home for 2 years. The Quetzal is symbolic of the grace, beauty, and strength inherent in living a purposeful life, and is a totem I will always look to when discerning whether to exercise my inherent freedom to fly. And that is the work and words of Amanda Baker. And this is the work of Beverly Aiken, and she writes on ritual. This needle-felted picture is built using layers of dyed wool. Love is the beginning of all creation. Barely visible in the center was a large green heart with textures upon it. We are living in the heart of God. The wool picture demonstrates two rituals. The first ritual is on the lower right side, where the young Ruiz men are in the cave, and their father, Don Miguel Ruiz, is at the cave opening, holding the stick. The stick's shadow comes alive within cave as sound and shape of a snake. The second ritual is a personal one. Upon the birth of our son, his father planted an acorn, which is now an oak tree. The small acorn came to life with potential and strength. This ritual was felted on the left. Both rituals have a feeling of being one within nature. 7 rocks for the 5 agreements, death and life. The eagle feather and stick plus acorns encircle the inner frame. Nature sings through woolen colors and textures, sculptured into form with love, and that's enough. Beverly Aiken, her picture on ritual.
Beautiful. So, as we have been doing for some time now, after doing some work in the community and with our Q work, we determined as a community what some of our shadow aspects are. And we've been speaking them out loud together, along with those things that we aspire to be and that we know we have come here to be, as we continue our journey to live with nothing and no one against us. So please speak along together. Please have compassion for us when we are being not enough, distrusting, grieving, blaming, powerless, and fearful, because this is who we have come here to be, inspired, in integrity, joy-filled, compassionate, unstoppable, generous, and transformational. And let's embody all of that divine shadow and sacred light as we speak together our vision statement. Spiritual Life Center is a loving, vibrant family that welcomes home all people and accepts everyone, no exceptions, weaving ancient spiritual traditions with emerging wisdom. We cultivate a spiritual deepening with the divine, each other, and our planet.
blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, you am the heart, I am the hands, you are the heart, you are the hands, you are the heart, you are the hands, we are the heart, we are the hands, we are the heart, we are the blessing to the world. We're a blessing to the world.
Let us move into this time of quiet and contemplation by taking a nice slow breath. Calm your mind. Calm your body. With each breath now, allow yourself to release any tensions or concerns. Bring your full consciousness into the room, into your body, into the sanctuary of your heart. And as you relax, your consciousness begins to drift and then float up into the ethers, into the land of daydreams. You are standing on a high mesa near midnight. It is quiet and still. A cool summer night, and the moon has not yet risen, which makes the panorama for the Milky Way even more spectacular. The millions and millions of stars sparkle and glint, and they turn the sky into a river of blue-white light. And you gaze up into this miracle of light in the stillness of the night. The river of light beckons. It is in this moment that you know this is your true home. The stars are made up of the same substance that makes you. You and the stars are the same. So you close your eyes, throw your arms open wide, extend your own light, and become one with the Milky Way in the silence. As you lower your arms and look toward the east, you see the full moon hanging low and bright on the horizon, as if waiting for its cue to begin its ascent. And the realization comes that you and the stars are the same, with one exception. The stars do not hide their lights. They shine for all the universe to see. as you watch the moon rise a little higher in the sky, you ask this question: how do I gain the courage to be the star that I am? The moon, now high in the sky, illuminates a great granite altar. And as you approach, you see that there is a small book laying on the altar. And this is what it says: for the beginner to uncover your light, the first thing you do is release your earthly burden. For the intermediate to uncover your life, the second thing you do is release your earthly burden. For the advanced, the third thing you do is release your earthly burden. It is not possible at this time for anyone to release all earthly burdens at once. So it is suggested that you choose one that is uppermost in your heart and mind each time you come to this altar, and then in ceremony, release it into the light. And so now you take your most current earthly concern and gently, lovingly place it in the center of the altar, in the middle of a moonbeam, and bless it. Moonlight streams down, dissolving and releasing this concern from your body and your soul. As it dissolves, you realize that you are clear and free of this concern, and you express your gratitude in the silence. The light is always within you. As you take a breath to return to this room and to your body, take in this blessing. Oh, my beloved, you are the stars. The stars are you. You are a child of the universe. Shine your light for all to see. It is why you came to earth. Remember this always.
Wow, we're blessed to have some great, as I said earlier, service, wonderful songbirds and musicians here to uplift us and remind us of who and what we really are as children of the universe. Well, this is our fourth week of our Faith in Action series based upon Don Miguel Ruiz's book, The Wisdom of the Shamans. This week we're talking about the power of ritual. And as I was thinking about the topic, I recall maybe about 4 years after I graduated ministerial school, my good friend, Reverend Jim Lee, who's been here before on many occasions, let me know that his community at that time, which had Unity of Brooklyn, was going to have a trip to Ghana, West Africa. And I was in Florida, he was in New York, but I said, I want to go. And so I met him there with his congregation, and we were going to leave from New York to fly there to West Africa. And I remember, it was February, and it was cold up there. For some reason that comes to my mind, it was snowing, but I muddled through. And I remember we were flying to the continent. And one of the things I remember about that trip is that the airline pilots actually allowed me and another person to go into the cockpit and watch as they were flying over the ocean. Now today, if you even dreamed about going inside of a cockpit, they will escort you off the plane. But it was a different time then. And once I got there, we did many things, and as tourists do. And one place that we went to was the slave castles. And in the slave castles, there was a place in which they called the Door of No Return. Of course, when you came into the slave castles, that's where they took the slaves. Eventually came to the Western Hemisphere. And of course, they would go through the door because they knew if they went through that door, they would never return to see their family, their friends, the people that they grew up with. And of course, when my group was there, including myself, we went through a lot of different emotions. There was an energy that came up seemingly out of nowhere. It seemed to tap something deep within our own DNA. There was anguish. There was pain. I think for myself, and I talked to my other friends who have been there as well, that there was a gamut of emotions they went through. Sometimes it was despair. It was sadness, a sense of hopelessness. Sometimes it was a feeling that you could not even identify with words. And afterwards, we went to take into what they call an Akan traditional naming ceremony. And this was in Accra, Ghana. And the day started with our group meeting the people from the village, and they were drumming and dancing. And at the start of the ceremony, we would be called up, and I was called up to a table where there was a chief elder there, kind of the shamans of their own community. And in front of me, there were two glasses of liquid. One of the elders stood in front of me and asked me to drink from the first glass, and I did, and it was water. And then I took a second glass, and there was a type of alcohol in there. And the elder asked, well, what was in the glasses? And I said, well, it was water and alcohol. And he confirmed that, he nodded about that, and said that the moral of this ceremony is that drinking from the two glasses means that you must always distinguish between what is true and what is not true in life, and to live from that truth. And no matter what you're happening in your life, our duty is to experience only the truth. And after drinking the liquids and hearing the message, we turned to the chief. And he gave me my Ghanaian name. And he said, your name is Kwame Tumase. And Kwame was because I was born on Monday. And Tumase because it was after one of the elders in the village. And once I received my name, I was turned to the villagers, and everyone cheered. And, we had our ceremony, and we danced with the people there, and they embraced me. They asked me a whole lot of questions, as well as the people I was with, because they were always fascinated that, that we were Americans, and we looked just like them. But at the end of the day, we went to the chief's palace, and we talked with the elder. We learned about his family, his experiences as a chief, and what his day in his life was to live in Accra, in that community that he was in. And I shared with him, the experience of going to the slave castles and the door of no return and the emotions that I went through and others had went through that experience. And then he got deep on me. He wanted some deep spiritual stuff. He was going to some fifth dimension stuff that, I was writing down, in my journal at the time, and I was looking back over that. And what he said was that time does not exist, and all life exists simultaneously. Then he said to me that the future can lift a future life, can lift in and influence a past life, and vice versa. And his point was that our life does influence other lives. Since all of them exist in the now, and there's constant interaction going between the two. And he said to me, if one life, whether future or past, does something beneficial, then all lives are affected. And if your life is lived at the highest possible way, in a positive energy, if you begin to renew and replenish your past lives and past lives of others that you know by sending them that positive energy from the present. And he said to me, and this was the key thing, that if you do that, not only are you free, your ancestors are freed up as well. And this is what they expect. There's something stored up in your own DNA. You have to sometimes experience it fully, but also see new possibilities from that experience. And whatever they went through, it was done so that future generations can spread a new consciousness, and they will be freed up along the way. Don Jose, in his book, notes that rituals are helpful because they are a physical expression of an inward desire. In New Thought and Unity, I think earlier on, there was not a lot of ceremony. It wasn't really a big part of the history. And I think one of the founders of Unity, Charles Fillmore and Myrtle Fillmore, they didn't really put a lot of ceremony in it because often ceremony had lost its power, had begun to you stand, you kneel, you recite in a language you don't understand, and it didn't really have the power, and it had lost its luster. But I realized that sometime maybe in the 30s and 40s, there was a Unity minister by the name of Ernest Wilson. And he was the one who introduced the Christmas candle lighting service in Unity. He was the one who believed that you can begin to bring back the rituals. Because what he did, he began to incorporate the qualities of the disciples so they could wake up something within us. He made it relevant to us in our life. And so most Unity churches and many other New Thought churches have this kind of ceremony. And of course, there's the burning bowls ceremony, which because of the actual physical burning of something, there's something within our minds that really realizes how powerful that is when we want to release that from the past and create a clearing for the future. It's one of my favorite ceremonies in Unity. But as we noted in the chapter of this week, the ceremonies are geared toward tapping into a powerful energy of things around us and calling forth the energy to help us along our spiritual path. When I participated in that naming ceremony, it was an honor. And that was one of my favorite memories of that trip. And I used my name, Kwame Tumase, from time to time to kind of remember the power which I have within me and how they welcomed me and how I felt a sense that I was connected to a bloodline that I had somehow forgotten. And often when I would tell people that I would be in the community and I would see people and I would say, "You look just like my cousin." Or some other person that I know, somebody I knew on the street. But of course, when I talked to them, I knew they were not from the United States. But it solidified a connection that woke up a dimension within me that maybe was latent. But of course, we don't have to wait for special occasions to have a ritual. We can create our own. And we can incorporate those rituals in our daily lives. I wrote earlier in my article about the time when I was around 7 years old, I had a cousin named Gene Wright. He was from Brooklyn, New York. And I looked up to Gene quite a bit because, not only, did he seem to know a lot, but he used to wear those cool Navy uniforms. At least I thought they were cool back in those days. He was kind of like a superhero to me. But one of the things that Gene taught me was how to make a bed the Navy way. And he took me through all the steps that you would do to make the bed, including how to tuck the corners and make the sheets so taut that you can bounce a quarter up and it bounce up and hit the ceiling. But he let me know that besides making your bed, there was something very beneficial from doing that. In a kind of like a guru type way, he said to me, when you make your bed, you begin to lay the foundation for your day. It begins to set up your day to move in a positive direction. Now, at the time, I just thought he was trying to trick me into making my bed every day. Gene has since passed away. But the practice really stuck with me, so I make my bed mostly every, 5 out of 7 days, maybe. But actually, there's some science behind actually making your bed. They said it helps, they've done some research on this. That it increases productivity. It kind of reduces the stress and increases your mood. There's even something called the Happiness Project that said that's one of the things you can do to increase your joy and happiness. And overall, this makes you feel better when you come back, and no matter how disjointed your day was, you can come back to a bed that's made up, and it has some impact on your mind. I don't know, just try it. They say there's very successful people, very accomplished people. Nearly all have a morning ritual or habit that helps to lay the foundation for their day. And if you create a successful day enough times, eventually they add up to a successful life. So I picked up a few rituals that, some of these folks have done that helps put their day in a good footing, on the good foot, so to speak. And one of them is that every morning you can set an intention for what you want your day to be. Make that a daily ritual. And there's a scriptural reference in Joshua that says, choose ye this day whom you shall serve. And of course, we think whether God or mammon, but also what ideas are you going to have govern you throughout your day? What qualities do you want to demonstrate throughout the day? And so one of the things we can do is ask ourselves as we go through the day and we're encountering people during the course of the day, whether it's someone that we work with, someone that's in a store, someone's part of a community meeting, it could be a friend. What words do we want them to associate us with? And it's probably not words like rude or grumpy or hateful. That's not what we really want. And of course, we accidentally probably encounter people like that from time to time that may leave you drained and depleted when you come into their orbit. But we want to ask, what words do we want people to describe us when we're in their presence? And we can brainstorm, just pick 3 words that set up our intention for the day. And it might be caring, considerate, patient, compassionate, joy-filled, inspiring. Maybe we want to be remembered along those lines, and we can create that as an intention for us. Now, here's the caveat. When you set an intention like that, the universe will send you all kinds of opportunities for you to practice that. So if you want to be patient, I got some stuff to make you really build up your patience muscle today. Everything will come up unlike that in order for us to practice that. Oh, you want to see the good in every individual? Well, the universe will send you someone that you can say, well, that is the exception. Somewhere along the way. So we have to be prepared for that. That's just a caveat. But one of the things that we can do, we can take those 3 words and maybe put them on our phones and set an alarm that goes off twice a day, and those words come up and they remind us of our intention for that day so we can stay on task. I was sharing earlier that most mornings when my son was young, Angela, my wife, would be the one to take him to school every day. And they developed their own little ritual every single morning before they would go off. And I don't know the exact words, but it was something to the effect that she would ask him, "Who are you?" And he would say, "Well, I'm a child of God. I'm here to do great things. I'm here to make a difference in the world." They would do that every single day. And every day, once in a while, when I would take him, I would say, basically, "Hey, do your best." That would be our ritual. Do your best. But the whole idea is that you never know what will really sink in with a kid. And she was telling me just the other day that she had got a call from him it was 3 o'clock in the morning our time, so that must have been about 6 o'clock his time in the East Coast. And he had been up pretty much all night, editing a video that he had been doing on his own. And she said that one of the things about the conversation is that he had just been contemplating and thinking about, his reason and purpose for being here in life. And he said, "I'm here to live a life of significance and to make a difference." And he's been thinking about that, and he doesn't know exactly what he wants to do, but he knows that's an intention. And because I think they had that ritual all that time, something began to seep within him. And not only does it change, our life, it changes other people's life when we set intentions like that. I remember I was living, as in South Florida. There was a cleaners right next to me in a mall, and I would always go to that cleaners because it was convenient, it was nearby. And one of the people at the cleaners, he was always grumpy and angry, and something was always wrong. And I was always asking myself, why do I keep coming back here? Well, because it's close and it's convenient. You keep coming back. So one day I decided, when I go here and I see him, I'm always going to be cheerful, upbeat, positive, no matter what he does or says. And I did that every single time I went there. And most of the time there was no reaction. I just was showing up that way. And I had been gone for a while. I think I was away for a month or so, and he hadn't seen me. And he said, "Where you been? I haven't seen you in a long time because I always look forward to you coming by because I feel better when you do show up." I had no idea what impact it may have. We can always have an impact when we set an intention and we begin to live that intention with people that we have crossed our path. There's another ritual that, I found helpful to use from time to time that I learned when I went to a regional conference in Santa Fe, New Mexico. They were having a program there. And one of the presenters there was an author by the name of Julia Cameron, and she wrote the book, The Artist's Way. And one of the exercises that she has in her book was what she called morning pages. And she said that every single morning, she was talking to writers, we was talking about any kind of artistic person or creative person, just every morning write 3 pages longhand of whatever comes to mind. Whatever comes up, write it down. Never move your pen off the paper until you finish writing out those 3 pages. And he said, if you can't think of anything, if you're thinking, "Oh, this is stupid, I can't think of anything to write, why did I go listen to that minister that said to write these things down every day?" Well, write that down. If you do that, I won't be offended. But the amazing thing is, stuff will start coming up as you begin to release the blockages that may be there. And she reminded us that there's some benefits from doing that. There are not a lot of them, but one of them, it begins to center us. It begins to clear our mind so that we can begin to dump all the stuff that maybe have accumulated, in our life overnight. It helps our constructive thinking and to creative thinking as well. One of the things it does, I think, that Don Miguel Ruiz talked about, Don Jose, in his book, he said, it'll help us deal with what they call the parasite in our mind. The parasite in our mind that says, we're not good enough. And if those thoughts come up, you write them down, and then you realize they don't have the same kind of power when we keep them in our heads. We kind of separate it from who we are. And he also says it makes us become less anxious in our life. And if we put those things on paper, and if we make that our ritual, the anxiety that we may have built up starts releasing itself, and we begin to tap into that power that is within us that is never left. And of course, there's the mother of all rituals, which is nothing but meditation. I shared that I had a mentor that I really looked up to, and one day I asked him about his meditation practice. And He said, well, you know, what you do, you just get up in the morning, spend 20 minutes in the silence. But you don't stop there, that, you know, every hour or so throughout the day, take a minute or two to go back into the silence. And then at the end of the day, go into the silence again to kind of review your day. And of course, I said to him, man, you'd have to be superhuman to do something like that each and every day. And he said to me, oh no, I think anybody who's not doing this is superhuman. Can you imagine getting up every day and have to deal with how am I going to get from A to B? How am I going to climb the ladder of success? How am I going to heal my body temple? How am I going to deal with this person or that person? If any person out there is doing all of that and not connecting with their meditation practice, they are superhuman. And we don't want to be superhuman. We want to be super spiritual. And he said, if you make that a ritual part of your life, you begin to move through life with greater ease and with greater dignity. You know, I think somewhere along the line they said that 80% of the accomplished people have some sort of practice, you know, of meditation. It could be vipassana, it could be transcendental meditation, it could be silence, it could be walk meditations, it could be writing meditation, but something that really lays a foundation for their day and keeps them going throughout the day. You know, this past week, as I'm closing out, you know, those bombs that were delivered and targeted at politicians and reporters and celebrities. And of course, the effect was to try to instill fear in the people that were receiving them and instill fear in our greater society. And then, of course, we follow it with the tragic news of the shooting deaths of our Jewish brothers and sisters in the synagogue in Pittsburgh. They were there worshiping, and you know how much, if you have any sense of connection with people, how that probably has affected you, or at least affected me. And so we hold, you know, in prayer the victims. We hold in prayer the families of the victims. But we also hold in prayer the perpetrators. The perpetrators who have forgotten who they really are. I think on the surface, it may seem like, you know, the challenges are political, that the challenges are religious intolerance. But I say that's only the beginning. That's only the surface as it appears. I think behind all of that, there's an energy dynamic and consciousness that's reminding us it is a call for love. Anytime someone does this on a deep level, there's something that's missing, and it ultimately is a call for love within us. Sometimes when these things happen, we don't think there's much that we can do. But as I remember that ceremony that I had with those Ghanaian chiefs who are the shamans in their own right, I realize there's plenty that we can do. Plenty we can do to help create a world that works for everyone. And that lies in the belief that there's no time or space between us or anyone else. We're all interconnected. And what we do here, what we do now, not only influences us in this very moment, but as the chiefs noted, there's no past, there's no future. Everything is simultaneously happening. And when we do good, when we express love, when we are a beneficial presence, everyone is lifted up. And if we follow that insight, we'll move toward healing the wounds that are open in the country and the planet that sometimes is torn apart by hatred and divisiveness. Because the reality is we can't rely on the government, leaders, or officials to do it alone. The work begins with you and me. We must be instruments of this presence. And if we can't do it on a daily basis, if we can't make this a way of life on an individual basis, we cannot look at what's going on and that we don't like, the things that we don't like, and somehow project it onto the government, project it onto the officials, project it onto the politicians. Because ultimately, they simply follow the lead of the consciousness of the country. So when individuals rise up and we begin to see spiritually and we begin to practice the ideas and the ideals of our true self as spiritual beings, the politicians will follow. They will claim it's their idea. And I would say that is wisdom the shamans. Peace and blessings to you. As we take a moment to remember our ideas of the week, we're going to say our affirmation that goes along with this week's theme. And it's on our overhead, and I invite you to join in with me in saying it together and embody it for this week's practice. So let's say that together. Through mindful ceremony and ritual, I tap into the powerful energies around me, expanding my consciousness and deepening my personal power. Well, next week we're going to continue on our Faith in Action series with the topic Sacred Shadow and Divine Light, and I think the color is blue, so get your blues on, and look forward to seeing you. And I invite now the ushers to come forward as we prepare for our offertory at this time. And as you are preparing your gift, your tithe, your love offering, I invite you to symbolically raise it to the heavens or ever expanding good, and just envision how others are being transformed as they come to this community, how we as a community are supporting other like-minded, mission-centered organizations that are making a difference, and that you are doing your part to help create a world that works for everyone and create a community that others can come to for their own growth, development, spiritually. And with that, I invite you to join in and say our offertory blessing together. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God.
Just for today, I will not worry what tomorrow will bring. Gonna try something new. Gonna walk through the day like I've got nothing to prove. Hey, yeah. Don't have the best intentions. Predict anyone's reactions. Just do my best. Put one foot in front of the other and keep on moving forward. Let God do the rest. Yeah. I don't know what's gonna happen. That's alright with me. I open up my arms and I embrace the mystery. Just for today. I'm gonna swallow my pride, and I don't care if I don't like it. If you don't like it, I don't care. It's okay to not know. Exploration is how we grow, yeah. It's okay to not have the answer sometimes. I don't know what's gonna happen.
I don't know about you. I didn't want this song to end, but I guess it had to.
We'll play it again.
Well, I think you played afterwards. We want to bless our tithes and offerings and bless the givers or receivers that are always here to make a difference. So we're grateful and thankful as we go forth, multiplying the all good. Amen. I don't know if there's a friendly, wonderful Unity minister here named Joe Sloan. Is you back there, Joe? Yes. And his wife, they came to grace us with their presence. One of my favorite Unity ministers came here. Thank you, Joe, for hanging out with us. I think it's the region. Are you still like a consultant for the region? All right. Glad you're here. Well, with that, let us join together and sing our peace song. Hands together. I just see the